to just move that down. Hello. I'm Joey Yo. Here are some glamorous pictures of me. Maybe? Moving some objects, shipping some things. So I'm an illustrator and an animator. I do like a little bit of both. And I'm really interested in places and people and places and how they interact with each other. As Matt said, I studied at Kingston. I went to Kingston and I did the illustration and animation course. But I graduated in 2017, so I'm still a fresh baby. That's 2 years that I've been out of school. But even in that time, I feel like I've learned a lot. And also, I feel like I've learned what I want, and I'm always still learning. But this talk is kind of going over some of the things that I've learned. So when I think about what I've learned and what I want out of my job, I think about this picture, which, as you can see, is very frightening. It is a group of maybe 16, 15-year-old underage teen boys. There's a few girls sprinkled in there, but they're all pretty young. Imagine me at the front of them, and imagine them booing me off stage, because that happened. So when this was maybe in 2015, 2016, I used to work at Tate doing like the YPP program, which is like young people's program, and our goal was to basically bring young people or people who aren't really in the gallery space and get them excited about the art, show them something different. We would activate the space, we would put music and workshops on. And at this particular one, we had people just do nothing come, and they were meant to just do like a casual stream, and then I would do a Q&A with them. All these young people came, the place was packed, it was like one in, one out. They got on stage, I got on stage, and they booed me off. They were doing things, the underage kids were doing stuff they weren't supposed to be doing in a gallery, and the whole thing had to get shut down. But it sounds like a hectic event, and it was, and kind of like a disaster. But I felt so alive, and and I was like, I want to be doing this all the time. I want to be speaking to people that wouldn't normally be in environments that they are. I want to make things clash uncomfortably. I just always want to have conversations and be in a hectic environment. I want to be agile and doing stuff on my feet and show people artwork that they wouldn't normally see, because I think about these kids going home and saying to their friends or whatever, I was in Tate Britain and there was this crazy gig. So taking that forwards, I was at uni and I was studying illustration, and I thought, this is the kind of mentality I need to be going forward. If that makes sense? So this is one of the projects that I was most proud of that I did in this winter, and it was up for 3 months. It was part of the London Women Programme, where women and non-binary artists all celebrated by creating public artworks all over to celebrate the centenary of the women's vote. So it's a really good cause. This is what I came up with. It's kind of like a suffragette march going across where they would typically have marched 100 years ago. And I like the idea that the people walking past, they're essentially marching alongside, because you would walk along with them. And it also says to speak the truth fearlessly. And also I stalked the hashtag Shoreditch thing on Instagram, and loads of people were posting pictures, and I was like, nobody knows this is my work. It felt like something way bigger than me, and it was really nice to be part of something like that. Technically, this is kind of how I made it. It was really nice working on a huge scale that I don't normally work on. It's like charcoal, collage paper, and then colored digitally, so it's like a nice challenge. Another thing that I do every now and then is like a live drawing performance thing. This was one of the first examples. So I have to say thank you to Kieran from Manufactory, who invited me out to Spitalfields to basically do this. And it was just drawing, people having conversations. All of the drawings were under 5 minutes. It was a really nice experience. This then went on to drawing in Greece, in Korea. This one was in Silicon Valley, and it was like kind of fancy. It was, you can kind of see my paper at the back. The whole thing would have taken months and months to make, but it was like this launch for an Hermes store in Silicon Valley. So it's amazing seeing how the same project can be activated in different spaces, and the people that I was speaking to were completely different. One thing that I like to say is I always want to keep my work consistently inconsistent, if that makes sense. So the previous work I showed you was completely different to this. This is the sort of reportage drawing stuff that I do. So it's all done with materials that are really quick and easy that I can carry on the go. So like pencils and paper, and I do stuff like that. One thing that I've learned is that I find the excess of stuff inspiring, and I always try and be really greedy and like read as many books as possible, watch as many films, and travel as much as possible. This winter I went to Singapore, Malaysia, and South Korea. These are some pictures from South Korea. That one I just stole from Google, the street one. But there's like arcade picture I took, and like in the fish market. So you can see the colors, and I like to think like each city has a different fabric, and you have to think about the color and the texture of the city, and try and translate that into your own work is really exciting. So here are some pictures that I did from Seoul. You can kind of see how I translated the colors, the different bright colors really like fight against each other, which I really like. There's another one. And these are some pictures just from Asia in general, but I think you can really tell there's the brightness of color, the contrast, and also kind of like an unrest, which I think is a big thing when I travel to these cities, is there's a sense of something always moving. As well as that, I always like the feeling of liminal spaces as well when you're traveling on your own, and I do that a lot. You always find yourself in airports and like little ports and things like that, where there's moments of silence, and you just look at the work around, look at the environment around you. That's fun to capture. Another thing I find really inspiring is working by myself. I hate it, and I hate being isolated, and I just like want to talk to people. So I always try and like see my friends and have conversations, which sparks collaboration. This is a project I did last year with my friend Wilson. He did the poems. Well, we were both really interested in Earth Day, so we came up with this collaboration. He did the poems, I did the images, and I really liked how he writes in caps lock, and it's really bold, so I tried to make my work look like it's in caps lock. Images that are much bolder than anything I normally do, which would have never come about if I wasn't working with him. So definitely collaborating with people is one of the most inspiring things. And I've learned that from back in the Tate days and things like that. Traveling is always inspiring to me. It's important to live. Always, I found that inspiring. I was invited to Brazil for a month, so I did all these beautiful drawings. I'm calling my drawings beautiful. I did all these drawings in a beautiful place. Sorry. I got to really immerse myself in an environment. I was there for a month, so it was a really tiny town. It's called Trancoso in Bahia, and it didn't even have roads going to it 30 years ago, so it is all super untouched, and the local people are amazing. I learned about a dance called capoeira, which is like, it looks like karate, and like people throw their legs in the air, but it's non-contact, so no one gets hurt. That was incredible, and so I made work that looked like this, and I think hopefully I captured the sort of color scheme and stuff like that. That was really good. And then to sort of finish off, the last project I wanted to talk about is I've learned that you have to manifest the commissions that you want. Not everyone is going to know what you can do, and I think it's worthwhile throwing yourself out there and making things happen, doing spontaneous things that you haven't even been commissioned for, because just so you can put out the work that you want to be commissioned for, if that makes sense. So I really like music and fashion, but I don't really have any links to it. I had a friend called Matt Maltese who was playing one night, so I asked if I could go draw backstage. So this is during sound check, and then just them having a beer behind. And then I went on to drawing at Field Day, which was like basically the combination of all the things that I have wanted in a project, from like the hectic running around, there being so many people, and also me having conversations and speaking to the musicians and bouncing off them. So this is AJ Tracy. This is just in the field. This is Lil Kana on stage. That's me on stage. Also, like, it wasn't even the schedule for me to draw them. I just like had some conversations, and like there were some people that I recognized, so I managed to get myself up on there. So yeah, make sure you're always speaking to people. It gets you places you would never have ever thought you could get. That's pretty much me. That's a drawing.